Listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.
Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme.
Get on
up. It's bobsled time. Cool runnings. And if you know that little jingle slogan, then you understand that we are reviewing today Cool Runnings, the 1993 Walt Disney film based loosely on the true story of the 1988 Jamaican bobsled team starring John Candy, Leon. He's kind of like Madonna, has that one name, or like Cher. Dougie Doug, Malik Yoba, and Rawle D. Lewis. This film is loosely based off the story about the Jamaican track runner who fails to make the Olympics and attempts another shot at the Olympics by starting a bobsled team in Jamaica with his best friend Sanka and two other track hopefuls that failed to make the Olympics to create the first Jamaican bobsled team. TJ, thank you for joining us. Not joining us, obviously we're always together, but this is the part where Nick would play "It's Just the Two of Us,"
building castles in the sky.
Yeah,
just
so
the
Nick,
two of us, Rook and I.
Exactly, and Nick is away. He's in Nashville right now for the bachelor party. I'll be joining him this weekend. By the time this airs, it'll be a week later. We'll already be back from Nashville, so probably shouldn't have mentioned it, but whatever. Who cares? So, TJ, Cool Runnings. Quick synopsis, quick overview. What do you feel about this movie? You enjoyed watching it? What's your thought?
Right out the gate, taking a pretty obscure sport like bobsledding, a sport that I would say, if you asked 1 million people, 999,900 would say, yeah, I've never even seen a bobsled track, let alone tried out for bobsledding or would know how to get into bobsledding. The fine people at Disney took a fucking sport that nobody really knows about and made it cool, awesome, a comedy out of it. And
Yeah.
I mean, included one of the greatest fucking comedic legends of all time, John Candy. How do you go wrong? I mean, it made bobsledding cool. It made the Winter Olympics cool.
Yeah, I mean, think with bobsledding, it's super dangerous. If you think about it, you're in
Insane,
a sled
dangerous
with four guys. Only part of your body is your head sticking out. If you go sideways, you're hitting your head on something. That's why obviously they have the helmets. But even with that, I mean, they're going at high rates of speed. I mean, I've seen the bobsledding. Winter Olympics. We just passed the Winter Olympics, and where was I can't remember where it was, but it was those speeds, like they're over 100 miles per hour going on ice.
Essentially, you're. So if you get into
100 miles per hour, I probably exaggerated that. But
I believe it's like between 80 and 90, something like that.
It's close.
If I'm wrong, but either way, let's put it this way. There's a reason why when you rent one of those like little Lime scooters or whatever, and you're putzing around the city, they only go like 12 miles an hour. All right. Yeah. There's a reason why, when you get into a go-kart at an amusement park, they make you put a seatbelt on, even though it's only going about 11 miles an hour, right? Because if you're not wearing a seatbelt and there's not some type of safety device holding you in, even at 12 miles an hour, you can get really fucking hurt. And these guys are careening down an ice sled in a car, essentially, a car on blades, right? And they're just flying down the friggin' track that is purposely built to be tricky and have to go into different dips and turns, or else you're going to eat ice the whole way down. All right. They're risking life and limb. People die every year training for bobsledding.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
It's insane.
And you all have to be like, you don't think like you have the one guy who does the brake, the one guy who steers, and like the two guys in the middle, like they're mainly the guys who are pushing it, but they have to be in that they have to practice that leaning.
Everything is leaning in unison. And most of the time you're just, it's all off of memory and just knowing the course, because you can't see shit. You're looking at the back of the guy's head and his shoulders tucked in to be more aerodynamic.
And I think the drivers usually like their heads are like down like this, pretty much. They're looking down.
You're trying to be as aerodynamic as you can be.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's just an insane concept. I'm amazed every year there aren't deaths at the Olympics. It just goes to show what high level of skill these guys are at and what it takes to do that sport. It's just insane.
Oh, definitely. But let's get into this film.
Absolutely.
We start off with Doris, who's played by Leon. He used to go by a different, I think it was Leon Robinson. He goes by the single name Leon now. He plays Doris Bannock. Sorry, I almost said Bangkok. I don't know why. Freudian slip. Anyway, so he plays. He's a track runner in Jamaica. He's trying out for the qualifying for the Summer Olympics. And then while he's trying, his best friend is Sanka Coffee, which I love, is actually the reason why they named him Sanka Coffee. Yeah, he's played by Dougie Doug, but he's called Sanka Coffee is actually because of the coffee company Sanka. That's why they did it. Did you know that?
I assumed.
Yeah,
and then obviously Yul Brynner because he's fucking bald.
Yes,
like the actor.
The actor. Yeah, it's based on the actor. Why is Yul Brynner? And then you have Junior Bevel, who is, his family's wealthy. But Junior and Yul and Doris are all in this race, qualifying for the Jamaica to represent their country in the Olympics, Summer Olympics. Doris's father actually won a gold medal, according to the story. And that's why he wants to follow in his father's footsteps to become a track runner and win a gold medal as well. And during this race, Junior, who is, the wealthy one of the bunch, bumps into both him and Yule. The three of them all lose their shots at qualifying for the Olympics. And Doris wants to try to get back into the Olympics. And they come up with this idea of joining or creating the Jamaican bobsled team, which inadvertently, I guess, kind of was started by Sanka, who is a pushcart derby, where he races the cars down the hill in Jamaica. And that's actually where the inspiration for the real story. Two American businessmen who started the Jamaican bobsled team saw the pushcart derbies happening in Jamaica. And we're like, well, why don't we just start a Jamaican bobsled team? It's pretty much the same thing, pushing a cart down a hill over through a track.
Right.
So that's where we get to the point of the story is that Leon, the actor Leon, Doris and Sanka go searching out for a coach to help them with the training to become this first Jamaican bobsled team. And they run into John Candy, who plays Irv, who is the disgraced coach from America. And I know we were talking this before. This scene is just classic John Candy. You have him in the bar, betting on the race horses, and it's an incredibly funny scene. He's screaming for tumbleweed to win the race, and then he smashes the radio. So TJ, this is your guy. I know you love John Candy. So
dude, how do you not love John Candy? John Candy's amazing, but to put him in that role, number one, I mean, you take one look at John Candy, and he's bigger than a fucking bobsled. So to think that he's this, ex-Olympic gold medalist, thrown out of the Winter Olympics for, what is it? He loaded up the bobsled, right, with weights and stuff like that.
He front loaded the weight.
Cost America the gold medal by cheating, all that stuff. So right out the gate, putting John Candy in that role, it's going to be a great movie. It's going to be funny. I love John Candy. We were talking about this before we started this. I love that scene. He's in the bar, hanging out, cranking down a couple red stripes, betting on horses like any good degenerate gambler would. And then you got Leon, Doris Bannock, just kind of popping up on him, asking him all these different questions, popping out of the bathroom stall on him, scaring the shit out of him when he's in the bathroom. I mean, epic scene, hilarious. But I mean, in typical Disney fashion, this movie is essentially, going against all odds and, conquering, your demon, being the long shot and coming out ahead. Which is kind of funny because the movie portrays, the Olympic Committee and the rest of, the winter sports as kind of being against Jamaica, when in reality, when they started the Jamaican bobsled team, everybody was very, very positive on them.
And supportive.
Yeah, very supportive. And they were all about it. So obviously a little Hollywood there, you got to build, a storyline. You got to, right. Exactly.
And the fact that they were so supportive that one of the teams actually lent a backup sled to them because they in the storyline they were trying to raise the money, which actually, contrary to Hollywood, they actually didn't have to raise the money. Jamaica was actually the tourism.
Yeah, they were on board.
They were on board with it. And they actually gave them the money to, buy their equipment, sled. And then they got the backup sled later on from when they finally did the qualifying. But everyone from the Olympics, just so much support that was actually given to them, contrary to what the movie actually is, where they're getting into fights, they're getting bullied. And that's like kind of the middle of the movie where after all the characters introduced, we move on to where they go to Calgary, which is that funny scene when they first arrive and they're all in like their Jamaican clothes. And then you see them, they do like they speed up the film to make it seem like they're running to the store, and they come out all dressed up with full winter gear.
Yeah.
And they're all like finally relaxed. And I think the funny part, I thought the whole entire movie is like Sanka cannot get warm. Right. There's always that he has, I think at the end of the movie, he has the hot bag in his jacket.
Yep.
And they're like, what is this? Are you carrying a baby around with you? Or is it just the hot water? But yeah, I mean, and then we move from there, and that's where we learn about why Herb is in Jamaica, why he's this disgraced, bobsled coach or former bobsled or Olympic gold medalist, who could have been an Olympic gold medalist due to his, his illegal move there, which is funny because I actually looked up and said, you're actually allowed to add weights to the front. I guess maybe they're trying to say he did too much weight to help him move faster, but they actually want weight to be up front because some of these guys who are the bobsledders are smaller. Right. And sometimes it actually throws off the balance of those bobsleds. So you have to put weight.
I'm sure there's a limit on what, how you weigh out the sled, but it can't be over a certain weight. And I'm assuming that it's based on the weight of the riders in the sled as far as how much weight you can then add to the sled.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, I guess with this though, obviously once again for the drama, they want a good redemption story in there. John Candy's character is actually fictionalized. He's not actually a real person. Yeah. They're loose, like I said, it's loosely based on a true story of the original Jamaican bobsled team from 1988. All the characters are actually fictionalized. None of them are their actual names of the people who were in the actual 1988 Olympics. But it is cool because during those scenes where they show them beyond taking the sled on the course, that's actually real footage from ABC's Olympic coverage in 1988.
Right.
So that's a cool part. Disney puts that in. That's kind of what they do at Miracle too.
Yeah, right. You got
last week.
And they used two of them, right? But Al Trotwig was in both of them.
I'm trying to remember if he was in Miracle. I actually don't remember. You could be right about that. I don't remember, but he is in this one. He probably was, because if he was calling the Olympics back then why would he be calling
it's
it?
Only 8 years later? 10 years
yeah,
later?
10 years later for Miracle. Yeah.
So
yeah, and so taking it from there is obviously the disgraced, coach. He's running into his former teammates, his former coach, and they have this big Olympic committee saying that even though they did really well and they do qualify for the Olympics, they're disqualifying them because they actually never raced an international race. And then you have that big scene by John Candy, who gives a good monologue, trying to convince the committee to allow Jamaica to go ahead and qualify for the Olympics and continue with their dream of chasing the gold medal in the bobsled.
Right, which again, I mean, Hollywood and up, because the Olympics are about bringing as many countries in as you can and promoting the sport and spreading sports worldwide and having that national pride and all that good stuff. So it kind of goes against everything the movie's going against everything the Olympics actually stand for. That they want to spread the sport, they want to get as many people in there, and they want to get obviously they want to get the best of the best, and I want to see people wasting time and just sliding down the friggin' ice track after your cart. But I mean, that added drama is a little ridiculous compared to what the Olympics actually are, what they stand for.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think shortly after that is when they get into the bar fight with Yule and
scene.
Junior, which is hilarious. It's like one of those typical, the bottles smashing over people's heads and chairs.
But nobody
flying.
seems to get hurt.
No, everyone's fine. Junior gets hit over the head with a bottle. Yeah. After he hits someone else over the head with the bottle, and he's completely fine. So
yeah, last time I checked, that's a felony. Let's go to the lawyer corner.
Yeah,
I believe that's assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah, that's definitely some sort of crime, and none of them get charged or removed from the Olympics, which is goodwill and good have a good attitude of being a competitor, and then get into a bar fight probably would disqualify you from the Olympics.
I want to point out another unrealistic thing. When they're training and they're all in the bathtub, all four guys are in a bathtub. Either they're really fucking tiny or that's a huge bathtub, because I can barely get my fat ass in a bathtub by myself.
Yeah, and like in a hotel too.
They're in a hotel bathroom, and they all seem to, all four of them are just in there leaning into it and going nuts. It's like, yeah, the last time I fucking dropped the soap while I was trying to take a bath when my back was killing me, it was lost. I don't think I ever found it.
You
It
know, it's
just
funny too.
disappeared in the water, never came back. Didn't have enough.
Like, when was the last time you saw a tub in a hotel too? Like usually now, like nowadays, they're all like showers, stand-up showers.
Yeah, if you see a tub in a hotel, it's usually a tub that you do not want to get into.
Yeah, usually someone's liver was removed without their consent. Sitting on a bag of
Listen,
ice.
and if we learned anything over the past couple Olympics, the conditions are usually pretty shitty for the Olympic athletes. So I think these last Winter Olympics, I heard these guys were talking about like the walls were literally just like almost cardboard, that they were like prefab, just put together, push pin style, made out of particle board and nothing walls, and the conditions were shit. I know the summer games in Russia, they said like the toilet, yeah, they said the toilets weren't working, half the sinks didn't have running water. Like I know this year, the Winter Olympics, they were posting some of the fucking food that they were getting. It was just worse than prison food. Absolutely awful. So I guess you gotta enjoy the nice hotel accommodations in Calgary in the 4-person tubs.
Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely. And the 4-person tubs, imagine that. But yeah, other I guess other major quotes or anything. I know you were saying before about the not during this, but off recording, the song they sang to raise money for the bobsled team. What was that again?
Yeah.
I forgot what it was.
What is it? People they say I can't believe Jamaica, we have a bobsled team.
Yeah, and that's
there's stuff like that, like typical Disney fashion, getting a hook in there, repeatable. When he's sitting out there trying to raise money and the homeless dude walks up and goes, "I'll give you $1 to shut up." He's singing on the street trying to raise money.
Yeah, they have the kissing
dude opens
booth.
up the kissing booth and
that's a good scene trying to raise money. And then finally we're gonna go into, I guess, the ending of this film.
Yeah.
So they finally, they do qualify. The first run is obviously terrible. Then they have the redemption run that's very good. And then finally at the end of this movie, everyone's excited about it. They're doing really well. And there's a possibility of them even medaling with the bobsled. And then unfortunately as they're going on the track, because they're using an old bobsled from the U.S. team, which John Candy requests from an old teammate of his if they could get an old bobsled for $5,000, which was
right. They
ridiculous.
Put a little blood, sweat, and tears into it. They build it out to be this beautiful sled, a little national pride, and all their hard work pretty much culminating in this beautiful sled that they now have and race down, and then it falls apart.
Yeah, it falls apart as they're going around the turn, and it's pretty violent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, listen.
I think they said the crash is not from the original crash.
No,
it was like they filmed that part, but everything else was from the 1988 viewing of it.
The fact that they, you have that beautiful scene at the end where they carry the sled across the finish line because they have to finish the race.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every athlete could, take that to heart and find that as a really nice, beautiful, touching moment, because that's why you play sports. You play to get to the finish line. You play to give it your all. But if I'm in a wreck like that, forget about carrying anything across the finish line. I'm probably just going to lay there for a while on the ice until somebody feeds me. I know they were in Calgary, so maybe a moose head or, a Molson Golden, and just leave me there for a little bit, a little Labatt Blue, because I'm not carrying shit across that finish line.
Yeah, and like one of the scene, like the guy's head's like
running up against the ice, like literally you see ice scraping off the wall.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. They're all like kind of out of it when they get up. I mean, when they first wake up. And I do like that part because Sanka, it's kind of a callback to when Sanka crashes the push cart. Yeah. And Doris says, "Sanka, you dead?" or whatever. He says, "Oh, you alive?"
No, he says, yeah, Sanka, you dead?
Yeah, you dead. Yeah. And then at this on this end, Sanka then says to Doris, you dead? And he's like, "No, man, we gotta finish this race." And then they have that dramatic moment of them carrying the bobsled across the finish line, and then ultimately, obviously Junior also gets accepted by his father.
Right.
You
got the typical Disney storylines in there. You got the family,
it's a happy ending,
overcoming adversity. And then also the fact that they're from Jamaica in extremely white dominated sport.
Yeah.
You have that just acceptance and what was it, the Swiss team or
I thought it was a German team. I wasn't
the
sure.
German team, right?
Yeah.
Shaking their hands at the end, accepting them. It's your typical Disney, movie building, creating a moment and having those storylines that, in the end make you feel good and it teaches you a little bit of a lesson. But I was going to say, I'm actually surprised that might have been the only movie created by Disney in the 90s where the father is actually not in the picture. Doris's father, has passed away in the movie. They don't say how, but usually in Disney movies, the mother's just dead, not in the picture right out the gate, especially in the 90s.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. But yeah, they also with that. Disney also, considering this is a Walt Disney sports film, they do a pretty good. We actually just reviewed last week was Miracle. Me and Nick did it.
Yeah.
And that was
One of my
Disney film
favorites.
as well. You have Mighty Ducks is another one that was a Disney film.
They do sports movies well enough to where you can be a sports fan and enjoy it, and then as a kid, it's entertaining for you as well. Whether you know the sport, like the sport, or couldn't give a flying shit about sports, it's just an enjoyable. Like, listen, everything Disney does and puts out is just a well-rounded, entertaining, family, wholesome, film or show or whatever. Everybody can sit around and watch it, and they do it well. And like I said, they took a sport, a little known sport, or you heard of it, but most people don't give a crap about bobsledding. If I said, hey, there's a bobsled qualifier down the road this winter, you want to go check it out? You'd be like, what?
Yeah,
they do that here?
But it's funny you say that because they take a little known sport and make it interesting. So Jamaica actually made the Olympics in 2014, the Winter Olympics, 2014 for a 2-man bobsled for the Sochi Olympics. And they actually said that the Jamaican Olympic team, I guess the committee, so they actually got a lot of support because of this movie.
Yeah.
Showing the 1988 again. So that was another cool thing too, that they had that, talking about that, but that they actually made it, again in 2014, almost, 15 years later, 16 years later, maybe. But so I usually like to go over the original casting and what they originally planned on having the actors who was playing who.
Okay.
So this is actually kind of interesting. So the original casting was supposed to be Denzel Washington as Doris, Eddie Murphy as Sanka, Wesley Snipes as Yule, and Marlon Wayans as Junior. I know Nick's a huge Marlon Wayans fan, so I was hoping that he would be here today, but I know he's busy, so we don't want to bother him. But Marlon Wayans as Junior, I think it would be a little weird for Marlon Wayans. I think maybe because I know they're really like Junior's character wasn't the comedic relief in the movie. That was more of Sanka. So I get the Eddie Murphy maybe playing Sanka. That makes sense to me. But Marlon Wayans, what do you think about those, original casting, what they planned on having? And then
those are studs.
Yeah.
Those are stud actors.
Oh, well, that's the reason why, actually. Denzel Washington and Eddie Murphy didn't get paid enough to do it. Otherwise, they would have done it. So that was there. And then other auditions or a casting they might have gone with was Cuba Gooding Jr. Obviously, we all know. Tupac Shakur, the rapper.
Wow.
Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright from was it Westwood? He's from Bond. Incredible actor. He was, and then Eric LaSalle from ER. Do you remember Eric LaSalle? He was one of the doctors in ER. So he was also considered that as well. For this movie, Rotten Tomatoes 76%, and then 81% from the audience score.
Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah. And then other titles that are used for this movie, which are kind of funny. One of them might be a little offensive, but maybe not. Cold buttocks in Norway is what they call Cool Runnings.
Okay.
And then in France, they call it the Rasta Rocket. And I was like, that's actually kind of offensive.
Is it? I don't know.
The Rasta Rocket.
I actually think that's pretty badass.
It's kind of funny.
Rastafari is, their religion that they follow down there in Jamaica. Yeah. I don't see that as offensive. If it wasn't Jamaicans in the bobsled, it was just some random black dude in dreads. Yeah, I would say that's pretty offensive.
Yeah, I guess.
But I think for what it is, I think that's actually pretty badass.
You're right. I guess it isn't offensive when you put it that way. So as I said before, all the characters are fictionalized. So this is actually one of the last films of John Candy's career before he passed away. So there was 2 movies afterwards. I think it was Wagons
East. Yeah,
And then
I think
Canadian
that
Bacon.
he actually died during the filming of that movie.
Yeah, and then also Canadian Bacon came out afterwards after he passed away. So this is one of those last films that we got to see John Candy, and like I said, I love him in this film. He's funny. He's great in everything. Uncle Buck, trains, planes, automobiles. I
Yep.
mean, who doesn't love John Candy? And he's in
I
Home
agree.
Alone too. This is actually
Yes.
one of the. They said this is actually one of the highest grossing films that he was in.
Yeah.
Money
I
wise.
can see-
So
Yeah, dude, it's funny, man. Like we said, Disney can take something and nothing and turn it into, billions of dollars. So they built a movie around a little known sport and they made it really entertaining. And like you said, the actors that they wanted to line up and put in the movie compared to the actors that they got in the movie, 95% are unknowns and never really went on to do anything else. So, I mean, incredible movie. The storyline is great. The way they build the movie out, the way they build up the characters. Like I said, I mean, Disney and well-rounded movies go together, like apple pie and ice cream.
Yeah. And then one last note, fun fact. So Sanka's lucky egg that he has every time he races, he has everyone kiss it. Was actually made of rubber. Obviously, they weren't carrying around a real egg.
I would hope not.
Yeah, Doug actually still has the prop from the movie in his possession.
Oh, really?
The rubber egg. Yeah, that's who has the rubber egg at this point, which is pretty cool for him. But wrapping up here, we only have a few minutes left. DJ, what's your rating? I think we do 5 stars. Do we do 5 stars or 4 stars? I was confused. I think it's 5 movies, 4 stars for breweries.
4 flights for breweries. Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this 4.5. I think for all the things we just listed, the fact that it's a Disney movie, the fact that you could sit there and you could watch it with your daughter, I could sit there and watch it with my son, and they're gonna find it entertaining, knowing absolutely nothing about the sport of bobsledding. It's funny. John Candy, you're at 4 stars. If it was John Candy just sitting there throwing rocks at a fucking old oil drum, it'd already be 4 stars. So I think 4.5 stars. Stellar rating. Great movie.
Yeah,
very enjoyable.
That is a high rating. I'm not going to go as high as you. I do enjoy it. There's obviously some flaws with every movie. Like I didn't like the part with the audio. Like they obviously just put it in like while they're sliding down the bobsled. They're talking.
Dude, well, at one point in the movie, I forget which team is coming down, but they're watching and they play the sound of a Star Wars TIE fighter.
Yeah, the Swiss team.
Yeah.
And then you also have when they crash the first time in the turn where like it's just on that one shot and then you hear everyone talking. And I'm like, this is kind of cheesy. But despite all that, I'm still gonna give it a 3.5. It's plenty entertaining. It's funny. It's a good storyline. It's a good redemption story for the characters. And it's just it's overall just a good movie. Like I said, you go watch this with your kids. You have a young daughter, young son, whatever it is, they're gonna enjoy it because it's still funny. The songs are catchy, the bobsled team song, and the like I said, feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up. It's bobsled time. I mean, how could you not go wrong with that? So,
dude, and you know what? Just if you ever been to Jamaica, ever went on vacation to Jamaica, it's a little different if you're hanging out in Kingston. But if you're at a resort, Jamaica is one of the most beautiful places in the Caribbean, and you see those scenes from Jamaica. It just reminds me of being on vacation. You know what I mean? Just even right down to John Candy sitting in that dive bar, just hanging out in the heat. Couple beers. It's just Jamaica is a beautiful island, and just watching those opening scenes when they're in Jamaica always just reminds me like, oh man, that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. But just to wrap things up here, that's our review of Cool Runnings. Check it out, the 1993 film. From Walt Disney regarding the 1988 Jamaican bobsled team. And from all of us here at the Scoreboard Addicts, we do appreciate you once again. I said Addicts weird. I don't know why I said Addicts. The Scoreboard Addicts, the Screen Addicts edition of this movie, doing the review of Cool Runnings. So check it out. Watch it with your kids. Have a great time watching it. Thank you for joining us once again. Have a great day. See you later, TJ.